guys, it's Chris the Natural Progressive. Surprise Saturday show with Bryan. Bram. What's your
Hey everyone.
Bram S? I don't know. I don't remember your whole thing, but I
I,
was
I
just going Bram.
yeah, I go by Bram SLI1. You can just call me Bram. That's fine.
Yes, Bram. That works. Well, welcome back. You were on
Thanks for
one.
having me.
You're very welcome. You were on one of my Monday shows, and you have some really fabulous things to say about politics. I agree with you so much that I really just want to delve deeper into it. You didn't get a lot of chance to speak because on
Right.
Mondays we have a lot of people in there, and there's a lot of climate talk and environmental talk and all that. So let's just dive deeper into this
Sure.
whole thing. As far as the election goes, uh, I think we're pretty much on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been kind of there since 2016. I don't know when was that when you pretty much came to that conclusion? I know we talked about it before,
Yeah.
like
It's
you like
essentially it was yeah. Essentially it was 2016 that really woke me up and made me realize that this is a pretty corrupt system, and that neither establishment party is really going to do the bidding or the will of the people, and that's because they are
corrupt,
basically held hostage by the donors.
right?
Both sides have essentially the same donors, so of course the results, no matter which candidate gets elected, you end up with the same policies because the policies are made by the donors.
Right.
So the real question that we have to ask is, knowing that this is the way the system works, how do we want to go about changing it? Because the first real question we have to ask is, what about capitalism, the system that we currently have? What about it makes it so untenable for our needs? And the real root of it is the embedded profit motive.
Right. And the need for growth, constant and consistent growth,
Right, right.
which
And
makes
that's
you cut
not
down the labor
right.
costs. So the people, the smaller people, get less and less and less, and it just filters up to the top because they
And
have
see,
to have
that's
profit.
that's not the way. If you were to take an economics class in the US, as I have, that's not the way it's actually portrayed. It's portrayed as a system that as it grows, it provides more opportunity for everyone who participates, which is completely false. That whole narrative, it has been proven wrong over and over again. And the most obvious sign that it's wrong is simply looking at the difference between those who are at the bottom and those who are at the top. If this was a system that actually provided more opportunity for everyone as it expands, you would not expect to see such a gap between those who have and those who have not.
Right. And
So the problem is that the wealthy have gotten to the point where they are essentially able to purchase their own representation. They buy our congressmen. So because of that system, who's making the laws? It's not actually our representatives, it's the corporations that are making the laws, and they make the laws to benefit them.
right.
So the real question is then, if that's the problem, then where do we draw the line? Because what I'm advocating for is not necessarily a minimum wage. What I'm advocating for is actually more along the lines of a maximum wage.
I love that.
What we
Definitely a
actually
maximum
need,
wage,
what
yes.
we need is a ceiling, because the problem is, if you allow people to make as much as they possibly can, that's exactly what we end up with, is a situation where someone like Jeff Bezos can simply throw his money around and purchase his own representation and make the laws to benefit people like him.
Right.
So that's essentially the problem, and that's where we're at.
Right.
So a
And we have to
minimum
change the
wage,
laws too, like
right?
to where the companies don't have to keep doing better and
Right,
better and better and growing and growing and growing and growing every single year. That's
right. And
unsustainable. You
essentially,
can't.
No, you can't. It's unsustainable. We live in a planet on a planet with finite resources. So infinite growth on a planet of finite resources is just not, it's not logical.
Yeah, not doable.
Right. It's completely unsustainable. So the situation is that you have people calling for a higher minimum wage. That's great. But I think what we also need is we need it to install a maximum wage,
I,
because I took a great course when I was taking economics. I took economics for a short time in Germany before my funding was cut and I had to return to the US.
mhm.
One of the lectures I sat in on was essentially, can we afford billionaires?
No.
And what the professor put in, or his premise was that on a planet with finite resources, we can't afford billionaires. Billionaires um, are not really sustainable. It's not a good situation where you have billionaires in a system like this, because again, not only are they able to purchase their own representation, but they're able to completely and utterly dominate the markets that they operate in and basically shut out everyone else that isn't following in line
Mhm.
with um, with their corporation. In other words, if they're not providing access to their goods and services that that corporation needs, then what they do is they just shut them out of the market. We
Right.
see that with Amazon, for instance. Amazon is a great example of that. If you want to operate within the Amazon marketplace, um, you have to basically abide by their principles. And if you don't, all Jeff Bezos has to do is undermine you by producing something similar and just simply dropping the cost down to near zero. When that happens, you are now
Yeah.
completely dropped out of the market because you can't compete with that.
No, you can't, and they can easily do it. They can take a loss on a
Easily do
few
it.
items just
Easily
to
do it.
to cut out the competition. Easily, easily, easily. And it's a really dirty trick, if you ask me. It's a horrible trick. And that's why we can't have businesses that big. And
Right.
Amazon at this point should become a public company, a
Yes, it
public
should be.
utility. We were having that conversation on the Daily Dive in the chat, and this is what I really wanted you to get into is this type of thing where places like that. That I mean, Amazon is ridiculous, and they are becoming kind
Yes.
of a public utility where
Yes.
everybody is depending on them, especially with the stay-at-home orders and
Oh
needing to
yeah,
order
absolutely.
things in. Once you're that big, once you supply that many services to that many people, you are a public service, and you should no
Right.
longer be privately owned because that just gives you way too much opportunity to take advantage of the average person
Right.
and screw over smaller businesses instead of letting them be a part of it. And they started out that way. They started out having small businesses supplying the goods that was all on that platform, right?
Right.
So I mean, it started off with
So,
books, but
so
anyway,
corporations, I don't actually have a problem with corporations. What I have a problem with is when they become large enough that they can essentially dictate the market. When that
right,
happens, they have to be either broken up or they have to become publicly owned and regulated like a utility, because at that point they're no longer a corporation. They are actually providing a public service, and once that happens they have to be regulated as such. I mean, it's really that simple. We used to have laws in place that did that, and the reason why we don't anymore is because capitalism, what a lot of people don't understand is regulating capitalism sounds great and it works great on paper. The problem is that capitalism operates much like electricity. It looks for the path of least resistance. So what happens is as time progresses, capitalism will find ways around the regulations that you put in place, or will actually find ways to just simply undermine them.
or
As
change it. Pay money to the
right,
politicians to change it
exactly,
to their benefit.
right,
This gal has a really quick question, if that's okay.
sure.
She says, Bram, how would you, or sorry, how would the max wage work for businesses, owners, and within the concept of the stock market?
Okay, well, what a max wage would do is it would simply say that once you've hit that cap, all of the money that you make beyond that is completely taxed. In other words, you
100% tax on that.
right. It's after that point, it's 100% tax. Now, here's the thing: we actually used to have that. If you go back and you look at Eisenhower's tax rates,
It was 90% of above a
it was
certain amount.
95. It was 95%. Now
Oh,
there
was
were
okay.
stipulations. There were stipulations put in to where if you made that much, you could still take home a good chunk of your money simply by um, having in certain, I can't remember what they were called. There were certain provisions for children and for charities and things of that kind. So if you could uh, claim those on your taxes, it would buffer that to a certain extent. But still, you were still giving up quite a lot of your income to taxes because you made so much. We
But it
don't
was
have that
only over a
anymore.
certain amount. I mean, like,
Right.
it wasn't taxed 90% on every single thing they did,
No,
or
no, it was
95%.
over, it was over a
And
certain amount.
people don't understand that tax system, and they get freaked out
Right,
saying, thinking that, oh, I only make $70,000 a year. If they tax me 90%, what does that leave me? That's the way the Republicans frame it, but that's not the way it actually
right,
works. So higher taxes on higher incomes, it's
right,
graduated.
right,
So it's different. Um,
right.
there's another question in there that you're tagged in. Can you see it from bio?
Sure. Um, hold on from bio. I have a thought about what can we do to make scientists and politicians to work to find sustainable technology. That's my point. We need to have a system that makes people work to try to find that. Well, one way we can do that that we don't have anymore is we need basically a technology department that operates within the government that basically works to find technologies that are developed simply for the purpose of benefiting the greater good. We don't have that department anymore. That was abolished, I think. I want to say under Clinton. I could be wrong. It could have actually been under Reagan. I don't remember. We used to have a department that did that, that actually looked for specific technologies and how to promote those technologies that benefited the greater good. That's what we need to adopt again. Another thing is, and I said this before, that I don't have a problem with corporations. The reason why I don't is that what we need is we need to find ways to incentivize other types of business structures. Cooperatives, for instance, are not incentivized, and that's something that we need to do.
Yes, that should be
If
highly
we had co-ops,
incentivized.
if
Highly.
we incentivize co-ops, it would put pressure on corporations to act in the better good of, or the greater good of their stakeholders, not just their employees, but those who actually have to deal with the other negative aspects of a corporation, the pollutants, the land use, and just the other types of waste that come out of a corporation. So if you had co-ops incentivized, corporations would be under much greater constraints to basically mitigate their more negative aspects.
Could you talk
And
about why that is? Because I think it's really
sure,
important to understand why co-ops are so much better than corporations.
co-ops are better because they're essentially employee owned.
Right.
So because they're employee owned, the employees have a much better understanding of how the stakeholders are affected or impacted by the
They
corporations.
can fire
So
their
they
bosses.
right,
So,
and they will tailor the co-op so that it still is profitable, but at the same time not impacting the community as negatively as corporations do. Corporations really have very little um, accountability to their stakeholders. Stakeholders are not shareholders. Those are two separate things. A shareholder is someone who is a private individual who owns shares of the company. A stakeholder is somebody who basically is impacted by how the company operates.
mhm.
So stakeholders are people like those who happen to live nearby and have to deal with, uh, you know, trucks on the road that move uh, move product. They have to deal with whatever pollutions the corporation produces. They have to deal with resources that the corporation uses. These kinds of things. These are stakeholders.
Right.
So co-ops are much more responsive to stakeholders because they themselves are stakeholders. They themselves have to work within the company and therefore understand how those co-ops operate and how they impact the greater environment.
And they'll
So,
understand things like the employee pay because they are an employee,
right,
and they'll also
right,
understand the
exactly,
need to make a certain amount of profit to sustain the company because they are an employee and want it to maintain.
right,
So, but there is not that need to constantly year over year
exactly, exactly,
increase. So
exactly, because they
co-ops are way
realize that
better
it's
for everything.
right, right. They realize that that growth really isn't benefiting them per se.
Right.
So because it's employee owned, they have a much better understanding of what actually needs to be done in order not like I said, not just to keep the profits, but also to maintain the environment because they realize they have to live within that environment.
Right. Yeah, it's a much better system. I mean,
It is
I wish that that would save us, but I'm a little skeptical right now because for one, nobody, this should have been implemented
a long time ago.
a very long
Long time
time
ago.
ago, a
Yeah, a
very
long time
long
ago.
time ago. And with what's happening with the election and Joe Biden being the candidate for the
Right.
Dems, and I don't know. I mean, I do know that you're not going to vote for Joe Biden. I don't
No,
think.
no,
So,
no.
where do we go from here? What do we do? Not that I mean, in 2016, I'm like, this is our last chance to actually get someone who cares about the environment into office. And when he was cheated, when Bernie was cheated, and now I'm wondering if he
Right.
wasn't just a sheepdog. At this point, really wondering if he wasn't a sheepdog for the Democratic Party. Um, you find out more every day by, gosh,
We don't know, and we may never know. And one of the reasons that we may never know is like a lot of other aspects of our capitalist system, our media itself has been compromised by it. So we no longer have journalists that really do journalism. We have essentially mouthpieces for corporate interests that
exactly.
basically tell us what we're supposed to think.
That's why I
It's
listen to independent media only.
right. Yeah, it's all manufactured consent at this point, as
Mhm.
Noam Chomsky has pointed out. So when you have actual journalists, people like Julian Assange, people like John Pilger and others, I mean, they're attacked by corporate media. I mean, Julian Assange is currently a political prisoner, and
Yeah.
for what? For exposing war crimes
Yes.
that our country perpetrated and has not been held accountable for. And
And
that's why I
election
say,
fraud and
right,
so many other
yeah,
things. That's
yeah,
why he's in prison. It has
right,
nothing to do with what they're accusing
nothing,
him of. He
nothing,
he is a hero. He is an absolute hero that should not be in prison.
no.
Oh my gosh. Ah,
And this is why I really do think that whoever is going to be president in the next several years is going to have to do a very hard look at the way we've been operating, and I think they're going to need to open the books and and begin war crime proceedings into previous administrations. I
wouldn't
think
that
that's
be
going to be very
nice?
necessary
Yeah, Val talks
because
about that quite a lot. You and him should get on that on a Monday show because he
if
talks about that all the time. Even if you can't get the government to do it, people should do mock trials.
it's incredibly important because if we're not going to do a real accounting of what we've done as a country over the last several years, I mean, going back as far as I'd say um, even Vietnam if possible. I mean, I think every surviving member of every past administration should be held to account. And if we're not going to do that, then it simply means that we're not going to ever be able to rein in our military industrial complex. And that's a real problem
Yeah.
because that's what is basically fueling this system at this point is our military industrial complex.
Yeah, and just
So
wait till
it's
Monday's show. The subtitle's going to be why the military industrial complex loves the Green New Deal.
yeah,
Um, it's I'm sorry, I hate to burst people's bubbles, and it is so hard for people to understand. But those wars are over rare earth minerals and fossil fuels, and
absolutely.
there you need both to develop the Green New Deal and to
Well,
rebuild all of our infrastructure. And it's but we're going to be talking about that Monday, so
yeah,
let's not get too deep into that.
okay. But again, I mean, it's something that's going to have to be done because if we don't rein in our military industrial complex, this whole system is just going to perpetuate itself.
Yeah. And
So
it's going, I don't think we have any control at this point. I mean, what
I,
can we do?
I think we do. Here's my proposal. Here's what I
Okay.
think we're going to need to do. We are going to need to mass organize, and we're going to need to pull people out of supporting both establishment parties. We're going to have to pull them away from that.
Mm.
And the only way to do that is to give them a better option. And the only way to do that, unfortunately, is to support third parties and independents.
So what do you think of Jesse Ventura?
I think that could be game changing. I
Okay.
think if he really does decide to get in and is able to garner the delegates necessary to earn the Green Party nomination, that could be huge. I don't know exactly what his platform is at this time, but he's not going to be able to veer off too far from the Green Party platform as it is. He's going to have to operate within the Green Party's already very well established platform. So if that's the case, that could be game changing.
Right. And who knows how much
Um,
time we have left, really, honestly. This seems like
yeah,
just a psychological exercise or something like, but just in case, I mean, I'd really like to see the DNC go down and have a viable third party
yeah,
option, just in case we get to live long enough to see it. That would be really nice, I think.
that would be really nice. Yeah, that would be really nice.
uh, I could do that.
I mean, it's something to hope for. But I think either way, what we're going to have to do as individuals is just continue to put out the message that neither of these establishment parties are going to benefit us. If we are really interested in the continued survival of humanity as a species and as life in general on this planet, supporting either establishment party is not going to benefit us
See, this is
because
where we diverge because I am not interested in propagating humans at all. We're
okay,
um
I can understand that.
I just think we've destroyed the earth so much. We have to reduce our population so much.
I can
We're
understand that.
destructive. Um,
Although I do think I do look at it this way. I do believe that we will have to curtail our
yeah,
propagation. We are going to have to limit
growth,
our growth.
degrow,
However,
actually.
I do think that it is incumbent upon us as being the dominant species on this planet to come up with viable solutions for sustaining our environment, which I think can still be done.
God,
I
I hope
think
so. But
there are emerging technologies that can be employed to help to establish um, and sustain our environment. The problem is time. We're running out of it, and we're running out of it very quickly. And I think as individuals, what we're going to have to do is all of us are going to have to take a hard look at uh, the things that we engage in on a daily basis that are not actually benefiting us,
right.
and begin to curtail some of those activities.
Like the bigger
Um,
house, the bigger car, keep up with
yeah,
the Joneses
right.
attitude. I mean, God, that would be a good start.
Yeah,
I'd love to see that.
it is a good start. It is a good start. but it's something that we're all going to have to do, and the more of us that engage in that behavior, the better off things are going to be, and the quicker we can begin to really change things. I mean, this has been put out years ago. Is that the quickest way to to help to resolve this issue of climate change is plant more damn trees.
Well,
I mean
that's not the only
that's
thing, though.
no, that's not the only thing, but it's one of the quickest ways that we can begin to impact this. Yes, other things are going to need to be done at the same time,
Stop chopping them down,
right?
would
Stop
be
chopping
a
them down.
good idea.
Stop putting more carbon into the atmosphere. Um, Stop using plastics
Mhm.
because those are just. I mean, it's the environmental damage that they do is just it's horrendous. So we've just. I mean, it's all of it, but I think the thing we can start with is at least planting more trees. Use search engines like Ecosia,
Yeah.
for instance.
But it doesn't
Ecosia
do any
plants,
good to plant the trees if they don't survive after planting. There, I see a
right,
lot of videos of them planting a
right,
whole bunch of trees, and then
right,
they'll go back, and it's like they're all dead
yeah,
because they're monoculturing for one species of plant. They're planting
yeah,
all over. You can't do
right.
that. That's not
Can't do that.
that's not how nature
Right,
works. You just need
yeah,
to make
absolutely,
human exclusion zones and let nature take over because they do an actual better job than
right,
people coming in, trampling all over, and plugging a tree
yeah,
into the ground and then walking away. And what happens to that tree? I mean, I've
right,
gotten really into gardening and realized you can't just do it that way. There, I mean, there's a lot you can do, like mimicking um, a forest floor with a lot of compost, not, oh, yeah, compost and mulch, like straw and that. And you don't even
right,
like gardens. You don't even have to water. I grow potatoes. I don't water them at all, and I live in the desert. I don't water them at all because of the compost and everything that I put on it and the um I grow them in compost and then straw. And it's amazing. You if you water them, they'll rot because there's just too much
right.
moisture in there. I live in the desert, the second driest state in the country. There's some things you can do without using water,
Yes,
and um and they could do that in certain areas, I guess. I don't know. I'm not I'm not an ecologist or yeah, I'm not that. I try to educate myself as much as possible. I talk to a lot of smart people that know way more than I do.
yeah,
Um, People always give me hell. What kind of expert are you to talk about this? It's like I'm not the expert. I talk to experts.
right.
That's why I interview scientists and authors and all that. But
Well, I myself, I don't know if there's even a way forward. I mean, I don't know if we're even salvageable at this point, but I will say this. Um,
I'm not willing to throw
we've
my
got at
hands up.
least we've got to at least try. I
That's
mean,
what I see.
we
That's
that
me. I can't
yeah,
throw my hands up and say
we've
fuck
got
it.
to at
No.
least try,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
if there is a chance and we just said screw it and just gave it up, um, I for one would feel really bad. So I think we
I would
have
feel
to at
bad for my
least
kids. I have freaking kids.
we have to at least try.
I have
We have to
grandkids
at least try.
by marriage. Um, None of my kids have had actual physical kids, but um, I'd still feel bad. I'd feel bad for those grandkids. I do feel bad for those grandkids. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna do everything I can for them. I
yeah,
will. Um,
yeah.
okay, so we've been on for half an hour. Let's go through comments, and I
Okay.
definitely want to invite you back on because I just think you're so intelligent. Wise
Thank you.
beyond your ears for sure. And I just love having these conversations. It's fun in the chat, but we can't really get all our ideas out in the chat, you know?
Right, right.
So it's just been a blast. You guys, if you want to address Bram, do the at Bram, say your thing again. You can do a
It's
super chat.
Bram SLI1.
SLI1. Okay, Bram.
Yep,
BRAMSLI1. So you just put the at symbol in front of that,
yep.
and it will show up so we can see. Um, I think Sandy. Sandy enjoyed the show. She has a show tonight, by the way. It's probably 7 p.m. Eastern. Really her. Environmental Coffee House. So if you have a
Yeah.
chance, check her out. She's amazing. Um, Jean, hello, Jean. Bio, I love how think Bio's always like the first person to show up in the chat every single time. Osama says it's not salvageable. I know. I mean,
It
I'm
may not be, but I'm willing to at least try because I mean
I'm willing to try too.
that's
I don't think
that's
it
what we've got to
is.
do. We've
I'm
got to at
not
least
there.
try.
I think
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure it is either at this point.
I'm pretty sure it's not because people aren't doing anything. They don't even give a shit. And they want to
Yeah,
just live their life. I mean, look how hard they're fighting to get back to corporatocracy and everything during this lockdown. It's like they're fighting really hard. We want our
okay.
piece of shit jobs back. It's like,
Osama's got a question. Are
okay,
corporations people? And the answer to that is simply no. Corporations
absolutely.
are absolutely not people.
Absolutely.
Co-ops now
Co-ops
co-ops
are
are
people. Yeah.
cooperatives are people because it's the employees that run it. So yes, cooperatives I would count as people.
Yes, I agree. 100%. See, we agree so much on politics. I
And
wish life was so simple to just deal
I
with
have not
politics.
seen Planet of the Humans yet. That's
You need
that's
to
something
watch
I'm
it.
gonna have to watch. I
It's kind
haven't
of
seen it yet.
it didn't teach me anything new that I already hadn't researched.
Yeah,
But if you haven't watched it, maybe you should watch it. That's
yeah.
um because it delves deeper. I mean, I probably covered everything in that documentary at one point in my show. So it wasn't a huge surprise to
Cool.
me. It was just like, okay, yeah, I already knew all this shit. I still have, you know, about this much like fight in me to try and stop. I mean, I have
Yeah.
a lot of fight, but a little, I don't even want to call it hope. It's like a little bit of optimism that maybe if people actually understood the problem, that maybe we could get together. Me and Sandy were a part of a meeting, an internet meeting on a planet without money, which is a very interesting idea, and it
Mhm.
has to do
Yeah.
with AI. So, not my favorite topic. I'm not a big AI person, but it was the best use of AI that I've ever heard of. So, if you want to look up a planet without money and find out what that's all about, do that. But it is
Okay.
about using crowdsourcing the people to come up with solutions, and from what I understand. I'm not really,
Cool.
it was just the first time that I really delved into it. It's from Adam Soul. He's a really great guy and has a big heart from hell. And he really wants to save everything. So check into that. Shout out to Adam
Okay.
Soul and A
Okay.
Planet
I'll
Without
check that
Money.
out. Now, I do think I've had some thoughts about this too. We can um, survive without money or currency.
What we've done
Um,
before. It's
we've done it before. I mean, we can go back to something similar to a barter system
that's
if
what
we
I believe
really
in.
wanted to. However, there are some limitations with that simply because of the technologies that we currently have don't lend themselves very well to a barter system anymore. But I
No,
think
but you'd have to
still,
live in
I,
small communities. It would have to
yes, I
be,
think it's still possible. It's still
yeah, it
possible.
would have to, you'd have to break everything down into, and
Yeah,
your leader
it's still
should be
possible.
small enough um, over a small enough amount of people that they know each and every person, because then they're less likely to make horrible decisions that affect these people that they actually
Right,
know. But there's
right.
too many people to do that. But this is my utopia, which is another thing people should watch. There's this miniseries called Utopia, and they bring a whole bunch of people together to try to make utopia, and
Mhm.
they come in with very little, and they've got to try to find a way to make money and make the land sustainable and stuff like that. Just watch it. It's if you can find it. I'm not sure where to find it now. I watched it a few years back, but it's called Utopia, and it's a mini series. It's a reality show type of thing. But it's really interesting. I mean, just to see the how the personalities try to deal with and make a better world. You know, more
Right.
natural, sustainable world. Um, there's so many things that have affected my thinking on this. Julie's here. Julie's late. um, who else showed up? Vegematic. So everyone say hi to Vegematic. Go check out his channel. He's getting close to 1,000 subs, and he is fabulous. If you just want a mental, I mean, I don't know if he's much. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Um, Veg is awesome. Just go check him out. Just do that. Vegematic. He will also be here on Monday. So if you want to meet him in
Uh,
video form, live,
okay.
he's fun. Um,
What are my thoughts on animal agriculture? I'm not sure what you mean by that,
Probably
Gene.
factory farming and stuff like
Okay,
that.
I am very much against that because, as we all know, it does not do the animals any good. And secondly, it really doesn't do us any good either uh, because of the things that need to be done to the animals so that we can factory farm them.
It's
The chemicals, uh, the pesticides, to um, uh, the growth hormones, all that other crap. I mean, no, I'm not. I'm not really in favor of factory farming. I think it's ridiculous.
what about
We
like
should have moved away from it a long time ago. I myself
absolutely.
have tried. I have tried to curtail my meat consumption for some time now. I very rarely eat red meat anymore. Um, so I have pretty much cut that out of my diet. Um, I don't know at this point if I can cut out fish and poultry. But I will say this, I was vegetarian back in the 90s for about 3 years. And um, I don't know, I don't think it really worked very well for me. I ended up losing a lot of weight and I didn't feel all that great either. So maybe I was simply doing it wrong. I don't know,
I
but
don't.
I could give it another try.
Vegemite says I don't eat anything that has a face. I mean, I love that idea, and
Yeah,
I'm trying
yeah,
really, really hard, and that's one reason I'm growing the Three Sisters garden. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's
yes, yeah.
the
That
Three
that's pretty
Sisters of
cool.
life: the squash, the corn, and the
And
beans.
beans,
Beans
yeah,
have your protein in a
right,
a vegetable protein, and then your corn has carbohydrates for energy, and the squash,
right.
it's complex carbohydrate. Anyway, that wow, I don't think I could ever give up butter and cheese. So we're getting us
Yeah,
a milk goat that will be a pet.
cheese would be really hard for me. I,
Cheese
I
is
don't drink a lot
hard.
of milk, but I do eat a lot of cheese.
I know. That's what would be
Yeah,
really hard for me.
that
And
that that would be
eggs.
difficult.
We have our own
Yeah,
chickens that are also our pets, and that's a really good source of protein. Um, and I don't see where it's that bad. We use their poop for the garden to compost and help our soil. And I compost
yeah,
every vegetable scrap. I think everybody should be doing that because we're losing soil, high quality soil every single year with the chemical fertilizers. Don't use
yeah.
those fucking chemical
No,
fertilizers.
no, they're horrible.
They are god awful. And if you watch the mine, I actually have a video where I'm driving past a phosphorus mine, or actually I stopped and videotaped it, but they are destroying our land so bad to dig up
Yeah,
those chemical fertilizers. Don't do
and
chemical
they
fertilizers.
stink.
Yeah,
They smell horrible.
well, I'm not saying that the organic ones smell that great, but
No, but just the smell of the chemicals is just
mhm,
horrible. I hate the
yeah,
way that stuff smells.
absolutely. Me too. Okay, so that was Jean's question because she was saying, I had a question up there, and so we didn't miss it. You got it. You grabbed it. Okay. Does anyone else have any more questions for Bram? I'm definitely going to have him on again because I just enjoy talking to him.
Yeah,
We have
thank you.
we have a lot of similar philosophies, so I think that's great. Um, I don't know. Julie, it's
What
your turn.
what am I willing to give up to help us save the planet? What are you not willing to give up? Okay,
That's a
that's
good
a fair
question. That's
question.
fair. Totally fair.
That's a fair question. Well, one thing I can probably give up. I'm probably on my computer a lot more than I need to be. Um, so I could curtail my use. Give up my time completely on it? Probably not. Particularly during um, this crisis, being that we're cooped up so much. I'm actually on it quite a bit more. Um,
Yeah, I think everybody is right now.
yeah, I think that's, yeah, I think everybody is.
Ooh, bio
Um,
is a good question too. But yeah, no, I would gladly give up traveling to work with fossil fuels. I would
yeah,
gladly give up going to the store unless absolutely necessary for, or I mean,
yeah,
going to the store, period. If I
yeah,
had neighbors that I could trade with, I just ordered a buttload of seeds because you know what? That's gonna be more valuable than money, our seeds. Don't you think? You can
yeah,
go on right
yeah.
now and try to
I can
search
see
them.
that. I can
So
see that.
I'm stocking up on seeds. I can give up going to work and staying home, and that's like what it. I can give up going to movies and malls and buying shit that I don't need. I mean, all my clothes are hand me
Yeah,
downs. All my clothes are hand me downs. I just whatever people don't want, I take. I'm like, okay, even if it's not really my style, I'll make it my style. Like this shirt used to have sleeves. I cut them off. It's like, I don't care. I'll make it what I
yeah,
want. Um, what else can we give it? Oh, Zox is here. Haven't seen you for a while. Um, I mean, I don't need fancy things. I don't need the fancy house. I never need that. Um, I could give up cars and just ride my horse if I could live locally. Locally is something that I really push, living local.
yeah.
Seriously. I think that's one of the best things you can do for the environment is just living
It
local.
really is.
Stop the
Shopping local,
transportation.
buying local. I mean,
Hmm.
that's huge. It does a lot because you're cutting down on the amount of stuff that needs to be shipped,
Yeah, fossil
and
fuels.
you're keeping the money local, which is always important.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I think yeah, and I'd rather do the bartering system locally, but
Yeah.
I think that's coming. Jean says,
Yeah.
excellent day. You are talking about reducing your consumerism greatly. Yeah, and I've been doing that. I'm not just
Yeah.
talking about it, I'm doing it. So, you know, hopefully y'all try to do a little bit of that too. Rich Diana says a buttload of seeds would be well fertilized. Okay, I'm not sure where she's going there. Um, I don't know if she's saying I'm spouting bullshit and fertilizing those seeds. I don't know. Oh, sometimes you don't know. We get really sarcastic comments sometimes. So algorithms. Okay, Julie, good to see you. I hope your crop turned out well. She was just harvesting her wonderful
Oh,
crop
cool.
of wonderful stuff that everybody needs to get through this major
Yeah.
death, pain. I don't know. Um, okay, who else? Oh my gosh. We have a lot of people. Make sure you guys like, please, for me, on your way out or whatever. Let me just make sure I haven't missed saying hello to everybody. We had a couple of new people in the chat today, which is really cool. I always love to have newbies. I'm trying to find their names so I can say them out loud, but gosh, there's a lot of chatting going on. Okay, that we had Robert Crane. Welcome, welcome, to the family. There was one more newbie. The way you can tell they're new is they don't have a wrench. um, pretty much everybody is a wrench if you've been coming here and you're not an ass. Smoking
Cool.
and G sharp, welcome also. All right, we've got our newbies there. Thank you, Bio and Dave, Independent Outsider. Check out his channel if you like
There's
politics and
there's a great question.
okay, you found it?
How do people stop using Amazon? What are alternatives? That's a great question. Okay.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Amazon, here's what I suggest doing. A lot of what you'll find is if you go to Amazon and you find something that you want to buy, here's a great idea. Look and find out if that seller has their own website.
Oh,
They have their own website.
fantastic.
Buy it directly from them. Don't go through Amazon's site. Go directly to their site. What you'll also find is there are other online retail outlets. For instance, if you're shopping for something in electronics, if you find it on Amazon, go and check other outlets like some of your big box stores like Best Buy or even another online retail like Newegg. Try
Okay.
them. Don't buy it through Amazon if you can help it. I will be honest with you though, sometimes you can't, and that's simply because of the market control that Amazon has. I completely understand that, but if we can get away from as much of it as possible, do so. Um, Another question: am I still using Alexa? I've never used Alexa. I would never
I
use
would
Alexa.
never use Alexa
No,
either.
I would never use
I
Alexa.
won't even use the voice search on my Google on my phone. I mean, they're spying on you through this technology anyway. Why would you make it easier for them? No, 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 no. I can't do
Yeah,
it. I ask my friends that why the hell would you use that thing? I mean, I
yeah,
know it's fun to say, Alexa, play this music. Alexa, order this for me online. No,
yeah,
no, no, no. That's not worth it. It's not worth it, people. It's just not worth it. I just
yeah.
can't.
If
Okay.
the seller has their own website, go there and purchase it directly from them.
Yeah, everyone loves Newegg. That's where he told me to go buy stuff was Newegg, and that's where I bought my last computer actually, was there.
Well, almost my entire machine's been bought at Newegg. Newegg and Performance PCs are the two main companies where all
Yeah,
of this was
millennials have the best
purchased out of.
ideas. My daughter, who's a millennial, sent me to the bulk store, which is also a fantastic place to buy stuff. Um, and
Yeah,
they had flour when all the grocery stores were out. So bulk stores are cool. I love bulk
yep,
stores. Huge supporter
yep.
of bulk stores, and you bring your own containers and reuse them over and over and over. Great, great way. I mean, like I said, I'm not throwing up my hands and saying fuck it. I am still trying to do the best I can, even though I don't have a big, huge, giant following of people doing the same things. But I'm trying. I'm trying
Yeah.
really hard. So anyway, people, we need to get out of here. I have some gardening to do, and I
Cool.
can't
Actually,
wait to show up my
I do
garden.
too. I'm helping to plant some flowers. So
Oh, nice. I got to work on my three sisters' garden. My corn is starting to come up, and
cool.
so is my squash. And I got to plant the beans, um, and it's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited. I just can't stand it. So, um, I will give you an update on that. I'm gonna do the Sustainable Saturday show.
Cool.
I just got to pull it together. I got to figure it out and know what the hell I'm doing. But I'm still learning and remembering stuff. I was a garden expert in Eagle Hardware 20 years ago, for Christ's sake, over 20 years ago. So I forgot a lot. I went a long time without doing it, and now I'm learning new ways that are even better.
Yeah.
So I really want to share what I've learned and what I'm remembering and all that, and get back into the garden and share it with you guys. So anyway, love you guys. Good to see you, Jean, Jilly, Zox, everybody, Osama, Dave, Ecocentric Homestead. Thank you so much. Um,
Thanks for being here, everyone.
yes,
Appreciate it.
okay. We've got to go, but thank you very much. I'm going to transition out of here. Love y'all. We'll talk to you
See you
on
guys soon.
Monday.